All right, welcome everybody to workshop number 3. This has been an amazing day. I'm so grateful for all of your time and attention today. It's been nice to see these workshops sort of spread out over time. I think I like that, and we might do that again in the future. But right now, we have 2 other members of SPI with me. We have Matt, who you saw earlier on the far side over there, and we have our special guest, our presenter, Jillian Benbow here, our CX director at SPI Media. How y'all doing? How has the event been for both of you so far?
I think it's been tremendous. I know we had high standards, but I've just been so overjoyed with the responses, Pat. Like we've been seeing coming in all day from the comments, and friends Andy and Alexis just crushed that second workshop. So
Yeah.
It's a big high for today.
It was definitely great, and they
Yeah.
gave us a lot of insight on like how to do certain things, like technically, which is great. And that combined with Jillian and what she's about to teach us is going to be amazing. So, Jillian, how's the event been for you, and what can people look forward to?
Oh, it's been so fun. As I'm sure anybody who's been in the last 2 workshops, you know that I was deep in the chat. I actually have to hold myself back because I just want to talk to everybody. And it's just I love doing these for that exact reason. I love connecting with people that maybe I haven't talked to before. So if we talked in the last couple, awesome. And I hope you enjoy this. Yeah, get ready, buckle in. We're gonna go over a lot in the next hour and a half. But trust me, in the end, it all comes together. And if you feel overwhelmed, don't, because you have us to help with all the details.
Exactly. And I also love, I got to say, that we're all in matching shirts. Like, even though we're in different parts of the world, it just makes us feel even that more connected. So, anyway, just let me say hi to a few people who are in the room right now. We got Bob Potter. Kathy is back with us for a third round. We got Jessley, Diane, Ethan. And of course, Alexis is here from Team Circle, and she and Andy had an amazing presentation. She's in the chat helping out as well. We have Jonathan, who is our support master, who's in the chat right now. If you have any questions, he'll answer them along the way. As Jillian is going on, I will save a lot of the questions. I'm sure a lot of those will be answered as Jillian goes. As she said, there's a lot of stuff to come in your way, so be ready for it. But we'll have some time reserved at the end for Q&A. And I'll pop those questions back in and finish up the day strong. So Matt and I will bow out. We'll still be here. And Jillian, you're welcome to sort of bring us back in anytime you'd like. But I'm going to hand over the screen to you and get your screen up and running. And it's your show. So why don't you take it away?
Excellent. And yes, both of you hop in anytime, because we're gonna get in the weeds. Perfect that we did a garden community in the last workshop, because hope you like weeding. So we're going to talk about building by design and specific strategy for your first 30 days and beyond, because pro tip, even after 30 days, you're still doing this. We just keep going around and around. So,
and to answer the deeper connection, will all the replays be available soon? They're immediately available. In fact, you can even rewind this workshop already. That's the beauty of doing this on YouTube. So replays are available. We'll send you links, of course, with more things. But I like seeing the word simple on there, Jillian.
It's kind of ironic. So what we're going to go over this evening, and thank you for those of you who are joining late night, and also shout out to anybody in Australia, Oceania, New Zealand. We've got some members there. Did you make it to this early morning for you? If so, say hi in the chat. All right, so we are going to start with purpose. Then we're going to design our strategy with a special bow to onboarding, because it is the queen of community. We're going to talk about how to measure the success of these strategies and how to fine tune and keep calm and carry on. And it's so simple.
Ooh, fancy.
That's the only time I did that. I couldn't help myself. It was like middle school all over again. And then just a little disclaimer. You're going to be drinking from the fire hose today. You do have access to the replay. It sounds scary. It's not. As someone who's worked in community for well over a decade and some change, I feel very obligated to go over some fundamentals that might seem a little scary, but are just absolutely imperative. pressure. So we're going to start with purpose. And you may be like, why? why are we starting with purpose? If you don't have purpose in your planning, there's not really anything for people to show up to. So I'm going to use a dinner party analogy. I mentioned in the last one that Martha Stewart may come up in my workshop, and here's where she shows up for a moment. We are not Martha Stewart. I realize the party that I have here that's just beautiful. The table's beautiful. There's so many great details. People are having a great time. That kind of has a Martha vibe, right? Like it looks perfect. That's nice. That's the Pinterest version of what we're doing. So don't get overwhelmed with perfection, because there's no such thing, especially in community. It moves too fast. But like looking at these two tables, if you were attending a dinner party, which one looks more appealing? I'm hoping the one with the people and the food, not the empty table. And that's kind of why purpose is so important. And we need to do some prep before we open the doors. So we're going to plan the menu with the dinner party theme. It's really important to think about your purpose, your value, and who benefits. I was going to make an owl joke and I decided not to. So we're going to jump right in to this big blank screen. And when you look at this, think about your community. Do you have an answer? Can you say the purpose of my community is blank? And if you can't, or if you're like, oh, I thought I could, but that's okay. It can be all sorts of things. It could be maybe you help bloggers build photography skills. Maybe you have an in-person community for local parents to connect and support each other, especially for little kids, right? Maybe you just love calico cats and you all want to share pictures of said cats in your community all day, every day. You know, what's the purpose? Oh, yes. So I like to bucket community in three different categories. Learning. So that's kind of the bloggers learning the photography skills, right? Peer support. That's those parents getting support from each other in the thick of the toddler tantrums, whatnot, having people to relate to, right? And then interest, the calico cat people. They have a very strong interest in all things calico cats. They want cat calendars. They can talk to each other about that. And then you'll notice that hot fire in the middle, which is the, the overlap of the Venn diagram. And most communities are in the middle there somewhere. But really understanding your purpose helps you dial into like, well, what is that? And what is the balance? Because depending on the community will depend which of these is the larger force. Okay, so in the chat, and I realize there's a delay, but go ahead and declare. And what is your purpose? What's the purpose of my community is blank. There are no wrong answers because, spoiler alert, this is going to change over time. It just is. It should. It's not static. Community is fluid and we roll with it. I'm just looking at the chat to see.
See a comment here from Diane who says, our community connects leaders so they can accelerate their development by learning and supporting each other.
Good one. Connect and support alumni, Dee. Nice. Yes. Clear purpose. Okay. So keep putting them in the chat. And we're going to move on to, no, we're not. So for my example, and as the, as a community manager of SPI Pro, the purpose of my community is to support entrepreneurs with their businesses. Simple, right? But what about the value? What value is your community offering? And to reframe this, because it's easy for us to think of it on our side from a member perspective. I'm thinking about joining your community. What will I gain? What's in it for me? And reference the Venn diagram of fire. So here are some examples. And these fall into those three categories, right? Education and skill development, obviously with learning, that peer-to-peer support. That could also be networking. It could be friendship. Obviously, it could be cute cat photos. So what about you? What value is your community offering? Dee had the connecting alumni. What do they gain from that? Is it networking? Is it camaraderie? Like why should they join your community for this? So for pro, networking and relationship building opportunities with like-minded entrepreneurs in similar stages of business. I could go farther with that with, educational, but the main focus I would say is connecting. Just looking at the chat. Pat, feel free to call out any that you see.
Yeah, these are all absolutely great. From music-loving audiophiles from Steven to connecting and educating pharmacy technicians, says Jessica. What I love about the kind of people we attract is we attract amazing people who want to provide value, but to all different kinds of niches and communities. And that's just, I absolutely love that. So like you said, there's no wrong answer. Just we need to know what this is before we create and then manage.
Exactly. And then final question, completely related, of course, who would benefit? So again, the values, like who would benefit from all of this? Reference your purpose and your value in this. This is why we're doing this. So a big jump here. With the reference of your purpose and value, let's get specific. So pro, I could say, oh yeah, it's for entrepreneurs, right? That's who would benefit. But I can take it a step further. It's not just entrepreneurs. It's people who are kind of in that mid-level or maybe even advanced level, and they focus on digital, or they are focusing on digital in some piece of their business, right? And what are they looking for that I'm providing? A safe place, number one. Where can they go to share ideas and get feedback from people like them, where they're not worried about their ideas being stolen, they're not worried about getting solicited to constantly. That's a huge part of what makes our community special. It's a place to make quality connections with those like-minded entrepreneurs, as I mentioned. They all have some sort of digital aspect to their business, which means they're probably looking for guests or to be a guest. They might be looking for clients. They might be looking to hire people that understand their type of business. We have pros that are doing amazing collaborations together. They met in pro and now they have a product that they worked on together. Those are the kind of people doing those sort of things that would benefit from participating in our community. So think about that. Again, it will change. It'll evolve as it should, because your community should always be growing and changing. So once you have that kind of in your head, that's when you can really start thinking about designing strategy. And I had to put Charlie. And this is honestly, I think this is kind of like the fun part. Like you plan it out, but now we're really going to get into like, well, what does that look like? Right? Like what does a safe place for mid-level to high-level entrepreneurs look like? So first, we need to talk about goals. What's the point, right? Like what results will your engagement strategy produce? No. No. That's a nice aside. But when we're thinking about engagement strategy, this isn't about cash. This isn't about six figures and all that. Anybody who says otherwise, we're talking about growth. We want our engagement strategy to create growth in our community. And growth essentially is participation. And that can look a lot of different ways. Mostly in digital community, we're looking at post comments, event, people coming to events. It might also be DMs, all sorts of things. So how do your members participate? And again, these are examples, and depending on your topic, depending on so many things, you will tweak this to work for your community. There's no one standard. And that's what's kind of fun about it. And that's why there can be 600 different communities on Circle alone about gardening, and each one has a distinct vibe. It has a distinct brand and a distinct community engagement style. That's what's beautiful about it. So don't be afraid to step outside the box with all of this. So creating posts, or as we call them, the biz UGC, right? You want people to be creating posts on their own. That's like, yes, right? Replying to posts, so engaging in. Someone posts a question, somebody posts something they learned, whatever it is, we're getting replies. And apologies if you can hear the murder of crows right outside my window, like clockwork. It could also be events. If live events are kind of what you do, maybe it's group coaching, right? Who's attending? Who's RSVPing? That kind of stuff. It's communicating and interacting on some level, whatever level that makes sense for you. So what kind of programming will provide the value, right? So going back, because we will keep going back to purpose and value, because it is the cornerstone of everything you're building. Look. So here's 3 examples based on what my purpose and values that I've been running through are. 3 benefits that my community would like. Networking, also relationship building. And that doesn't need to necessarily be networking. That could be partners. That could be friends, right? We have a lot of fun in pro. It's not all business. And then obviously business growth. How do I grow my business? How do I make more money or have like more financial stability or whatever my main goal is? So there's the money bag. It does come in at the end. So how could we implement these 3 things in a community? And these are just some ideas. This is not you have to do all these things. This is not a checklist. This is some inspiration. So these are potentials, and these are things we happen to do that work well. So having spaces dedicated to business growth. We have spaces dedicated to all of that. I'll get into that. I'm gonna get sidetracked because I'm excited. Spaces dedicated to just for fun. Oh, got a teenager slamming a door. Networking events, right? So let's get on a call on Zoom, on whatever, and let's do some networking. Let's get in the room together, if you will, virtually. Masterminds are huge for pro, but maybe it's focus groups, maybe it's interest groups. Expert-led events. I think Andy and Alexis talked about this in their workshop. Who can you have come present or just answer questions? Maybe it's someone on your team. Pat does AMAs once a month in pro. They're always a hit. It never gets boring because there's, people always have questions and Pat always has responses. It's great. What about your members? Could they lead events? One of the best things we've done in pro is open up events to our members to lead the events. And they're more popular than our events, honestly. So they know what they want and they know, and they give it to each other. It's great. So some ideas. I put a little disclaimer here. We have a ton of spaces. Don't be like us. Start small. This is overwhelming when it's all open like this to a new member. But just look at what we have here. So we have a member center. We'll get into, with onboarding, that a lot of plays into that. We have an event space. Circle has an amazing new events feature where you can seamlessly have event information. It's very easy to find, an RSVP, whatnot. But if you look specifically under, like, we have monetization and audience building. Those directly relate to the business building side of what's important to our community, right? You can also see the tab with the masterminds, which I didn't open and drop down because as an admin, it will just be, there's so many. We have so many masterminds. I've lost count, quite frankly. You can see water cooler. That is our just for fun. That's, you just go there and whatever, it can be off topic, right? Ask for feedback is by far our most popular space. That's where people can go and say, hey, I'm trying to, make this lead magnet work with this, and I'm stuck on XYZ. And 5 people who are experts in that will come in and be like, oh, let me help you. Or have you tried this? Like, it's just wonderful. So align spaces with the values. Ooh, yes. I can echo.
Yeah. Did I register there? I was trying to chime in. No?
Yeah, go ahead.
Chime away.
All right. Yeah, I broke your train of thought. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to be fluid there. But I wanted to really accentuate that great point just around, the intention for the ask for feedback channel in context of purpose, right? For SPI Pro, yes, the purpose is around the networking and all the benefits that can come from the networking. But that element then of safety, like that is such a awesome and profound, at least for us, manifestation of that safety is that people feel safe increasingly and profoundly, like with volume, to go into our ask for feedback channel there, our space there, and post a range of questions that, require some measure of vulnerability to ask that question, right? Sometimes in a really big way in terms of vulnerability, sometimes maybe not as big, but like you have to have enough trust and shared safety in that space to even go there. So the fact that that is our most popular space I think speaks volumes to our ability to define through design of our community to, hold space for that and facilitate that.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out, because it's so true. It's very important to us, for our community in particular, to have that safety, because people are talking about things affected to their livelihood. It's their passion projects, all of those things. We want them to feel safe to share. Otherwise, the community doesn't serve the full purpose, right? So I could talk about it forever. We'll keep going. Okay. And then events. What events can you have? This is if you aren't already on Circle, this is a nice preview. And keep in mind, we have a team. Our Pro has been around for like almost 2 years, 2 years in July. So this is just a snapshot. We do a lot of events, but if you are solo launching a community, don't see all these dates and be like 2 events a day, like 4 in a week. Don't compare your start to our middle, right? But point being, if you look at the topics, so we're trying to help people, that maybe would like to host their own event in Pro. This workshop is kind of just like a Q&A for people to see, like, oh, what about this topic? This is what I'm good at. Would people be interested? And yes, and here's how you do it. We have an Ask an Expert tomorrow with Jason Resnick, who founded Nurture Kit. So that's going to be amazing. Office hours. We also do co-working. We just, you get on, we use a platform called Work From, and they have like virtual co-working spaces. So a couple hours once a week, you can just hop on and kind of like be in the room with someone, because entrepreneurship can be really lonely. So it's just a way to be like, I'm going to come and have an intention for what I'm working on. And it's just kind of motivating. Okay, this is a big one. Again, choose your things, but this is just this is actually something I've shared with my team members. Create a content and activity plan that is for you. So this is for you or for who you hire to do your daily community management. And it's just best practices, right? So you don't set it and forget it. You need to be in there. And maybe you have an hour a day carved out, or maybe you're like me and you're in there a lot, because you have a big community and a team and whatnot. But it's just some basics. You're interacting, and notice that this isn't lead all the content. It's not, because you want your community to be the ones posting most of the things. You can chime in. If people tag you, you obviously want to reply pretty quickly, but you're not there to be a content generator. As I think, Pat, you had a great slide about, what was it? Content bloat. Content bloat. That is not what we're doing at all. You can create new posts and have rituals for content. So for example, Tip Tuesday, right? On Thursdays, you or someone on your team shares an article, pertinent to whatever it is your community is about, right? I actually don't do either of those. That's just an example. Our community provides enough going on that we don't need that. That would just be noise. One thing we do every week is we have highs and lows on Fridays. And you can go in there and you can post like, what went great? What are your highs? What wasn't so great? What are your lows? And then you get the celebration highs, like nice work. And then the lows, you can get support about, because that's life, right? It's not all wins. And as an aside, that used to be called weekly wins. And there's some feedback, about, well, sometimes you don't have a win that week, but you want to participate. And we started thinking about, the messy middle, like life has highs and lows. So let's support each other in the lows, but also celebrate the highs. So that's an example of, it's a ritual we have in Pro. That could be it. That could be your simple, that's the thing you post. I love tagging people, whether it's, an upcoming event. And I know someone was just asking about that. So especially like an Ask an Expert, if someone was asking about email and specifically like ConvertKit, I would tag them and be like, oh, are you coming to the Ask an Expert with Jason? Here's the link so you can see more, or so you can watch the replay. Like just really you're kind of the connector. You're the hostess with the mostest at the party, right? And then I would say one of the most important things is looking for things that go unanswered and either tagging people in or posting a response to get it going. There's nothing worse, especially for a new community member, to ask for help or to post something and for it to fall flat. So I'd say if there's one main takeaway from this, if you're like, oh, there's a lot, do that. Okay. So let's talk about your first 30 days in particular. We just went over a ton of stuff, right? What are just a few key programs that you could do, whether that's form-based, asynchronous, in spaces, whether that's events? What is your personal activity plan? What are you doing in the community every week to foster relationship building, right? What we just talked about. And then, of course, just add this to your list. We're going to nail that onboarding for new members. We'll get into that a little more in a bit. There's also a ton of stuff in the bundle that we're providing with details on that. It is so important to do a few things really well. And then as once those are under your belt and you're like, okay, what are your members saying? Like, are they like, are they not showing up to that event you thought would be great? What do they want? Ask them. They are the ones with the knowledge. They will tell you what they prefer. Sometimes I recently got on a call with mastermind leaders and I was like, here's the thing. We've outgrown the way we do this. What do you think? And they had such amazing ideas as people who lead our masterminds that I hadn't thought of. They are like genius brains. So tap in. And I just wanted to shout out the first 30 days in particular, like it's a party, have fun, celebrate the people coming in, in that first group, special launch events, have a launch party, maybe even, well, I'm going to overcomplicate it. You could maybe even invite potential members to that, right? We do open houses every quarter for people who are interested in pro, but haven't joined. And, we've opened the doors. So we do an open house where they can come just kind of get a sense for how we do things and see if it's a community they want to be a part of. Okay. So let's talk about the queen, onboarding. You can build the most beautiful community. It does not mean people are going to log in after that first time. This is the part of the party. We've planned our party, our dinner party. We have an agenda, whatnot. Now the guests are coming in the door. So we want to be ready for them, right? We don't want to be rushing around like, oh, wait, I forgot. Like we didn't have appetizers. What should we do? Right? Fortunately, you're not feeding anybody. So it's not as critical. You won't have hungry or hangry people. So I would also say if you've already launched, if you already have a community, you can add this anytime. Don't feel like you missed out because what we're really trying to do is get people new or existing that maybe haven't been around in the community for a while. We want them to log in. And after they log in, we want them to have a reason to participate. We want them to engage in some way. And ultimately, we want them to come back. It sounds so simple. So how can we do that? A great way to get people to log in is to email them. If they're not on the platform, they're not seeing what's going on. So if they're brand new, an onboarding sequence is a really great way to kind of set it and forget it. It will take some tweaking. I will get into that a little more in a second. How should they participate? This is like you invite a friend of yours that you just met, but you really like. You invite them to this dinner party and they show up. If you just leave them at the door to figure it out and they walk in and everybody else is talking to each other, or they know each other, they're not going to have fun and they might leave early, right? You want to really be that person that's like, oh my gosh, Pat, you made it. I am so excited you're here. Let me show you around. Have you met my friend Matt? I feel like the two of you will just totally hit it off. I think you might even have the exact same birthday. Like you're connecting people. You're bringing them in. And then you want them to come back. So the next party you have, you want them to be like, that was so much fun. I definitely am making time for that dinner party. So in the details, which I kind of jumped into, okay, again, I get excited. Email onboarding, the easiest way to do it is a sequence highlighting the best and the greatest of what's in your community, highlighting the programming you have just for new members to be like, hey, check this out. Again, that holding their hand, we're walking them through our apartment or our house to be like, okay, you can put your coat here and here's the bathroom and here's the bar. And if you need anything, talk to me or so-and-so, right? Like we're guiding them. We do that with our new member challenge. It's like a tour. Again, I'm going to keep plugging the bundle because we basically laid it all out in detail there for you. And then again, you're the connector. You're the hostess with the mostest. It's your party. You know who might want to be friends with who, or maybe even like, I don't know, they're both single. Let's see. You know, you're kind of the maestro of this whole orchestra. No. I guess I had two. Oh no, stop. Okay. So here, this is just kind of a snapshot of what our emails kind of look like with frequency again in the bundle, more info. But you can see we have several, we have like a dozen emails we send over the course of a couple weeks. We have a big community. We have a lot going on, and we invite cohorts of, 100 plus people a quarter. So this is just what works for us based on our community. You, however, are hopefully not starting with hundreds of people. And if you are, cool, but start with 3 emails. Maybe add some as you notice what do people get hung up on, right? Like, oh, nobody knew that we did a monthly event. I'm going to add an email just about that. Or I'm going to send a special email about that the week before, right? You're going to want to pay attention to these emails as far as, are people opening them? So you can tweak your headlines and whatnot. Like maybe they don't realize that they're getting them. Maybe they're not that interesting. Whatever it is, you want to tweak it so that people are opening them. And then are they clicking on the call to action? What are you telling them to do in that email? Like, go and introduce yourself and say hello. If nobody's clicking through and posting, like, is that too intimidating? How can I reword this to show that this is like a great way to start your membership? And then of course we use ConvertKit, but if you can have this automated and you just go check it occasionally, that is, oh, I just saw Christina's no, thank you. Well, okay.
Can I break in for a moment again?
Please, I'll take a breath. Come on.
Please. I'll let you take a breath. You deserve it. Okay. You're smashing this. You have very kindly mentioned, I think probably 7 times there, this great bundle that we have. So if people, I've seen a couple of comments, like if they're curious, you can go to smartpassiveincome.com/bundle. Thank you, Pat, for putting it on the screen there. This is in partnership with Circle. And I don't want to take too much away from Jillian's presentation, but you can go there. This is the bundle that Jillian is talking about. And you can check out all the good stuff that's in there. We've contributed a lot to it from our side. Jillian's referencing a few things, and Circle has it as well. So just want to round out that question for a few folks.
Thank you, Matt.
Gregory, CTA is call to action. Thank you for calling that out. Sometimes I forget that I'm speaking in terms.
It is like a new language for many of us when we're first going through this.
It is. It's like when people start talking about crypto and I'm like, stop it. That's probably what I'm doing right now. So I apologize.
CTA could very well be another NFT, right? Like another 3-letter word or 3-letter acronym or something.
Don't give anyone any ideas. Yeah.
ETH.
I'm selling it now. Here's my number.
SPI coin, yay. Okay, I'm just kidding. Not saying never, but we're that's not in the plan right now. But the plan right now is to help you with your community. And so it looks like we're talking about onboarding, which is literally the most important thing, like Jillian said. If you don't do this right, people aren't coming back. It's the first impression, right? You make a good first impression. I mean, people are coming back and making a habit out of it. And that's kind of what we try to do at SPI, is try to get people to build that habit of coming in, because we're not on Facebook where everybody's already, or we're not on Instagram or LinkedIn where we sort of habitually go to every day. We have to train people, to come in and realize, this place is much better, right? And it is, and it can be. So why don't you keep going, Jillian?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think, as an aside, a lot of people are concerned if they have a community, say on Facebook or somewhere, and they're like, ooh, this is cool, but how do I migrate over? You can do it. We did it with our academy. It's just a matter of communication. And then you have this really safe place for people where there's not all the other things going on. So I can't speak highly enough about investing in a platform that was made to have community versus using a platform that was made to sell advertising. That's all I'll say about that.
Right. It goes along with Mia's question here about migration. Maybe we'll save this particular question to the end so we can get into a little bit more detail for you, Mia, as far as how we migrated. We actually did migrate people from our own Facebook groups to Circle as well. So we'll get into that, but I just want to acknowledge that question is a great one, and we'll get to that. So let me take it off the screen. And Jillian, you're a rock star. Keep going.
I'm pretty sure I wrote a blog post about the details of how we did it, but I also have a terrible memory, so I might have dreamed that, but I'm pretty sure I did. I don't know if Jonathan's still here, if you can find that or let me know it was a dream. I'm pretty sure I did too. We could do a whole workshop just on that, honestly. But for today, let's get back to new member programming. So this is your onboarding programming. You have the option to do the emails. That's off platform, but then on platform, if they've logged in and they're here, like you've got their attention. So what are you doing to help navigate, hold their hand, show them the apartment where the drinks are, bathroom, all that, right? So we have a start here section, and it's dedicated to questions. It's dedicated to, as you can see, the things to do, the guidelines, which I'm a huge advocate of having really tight and nice kind guidelines in the bundle, a whole worksheet. And just as you can see, it's just all the things. Take the tour, it's all designed specifically to take someone on a tour of our community so that it isn't overwhelming as a new member coming in and there's all these spaces. Then specifically, say hello. We have a space, and a lot of communities have this, and I just think it's wonderful. People, and you can see it's pinned on the side. It's of the space. If you're looking at the screenshot with Pat's face, there's a welcome video from Pat talking about this. We're so excited to have you here, and then there's a call to action, a CTA, to introduce yourself, and that's like, if you can get someone to introduce themselves and then they get the experience of this like welcome wagon of just this rush of people welcoming them, like, yes, that's a dopamine hit. Like you want that. You want people to feel seen. And you want to see them, obviously. They joined your community. So here's an example of, and I crossed out people's names because I wasn't sure if people want their names on here. So here's an example of a comment I posted on someone say hello. It was like, hey, welcome. And, you should meet this person who also lives in Puerto Rico. And then just kind of talking about, reiterating, oh, how cool what you're doing. And because, we're all about like, tell us about your business. What are you working on? We want to know, so then we can better serve you. So I make my replies about the person because, I care what they're doing, I care about what they're doing, and I want to start a conversation with them. And then this is an example. We have some places where people can connect with each other off the platform. I'm not going to tell people they have to only communicate on our platform, which unfortunately some communities do that. I would highly recommend you don't. We're all adults. So we are an entrepreneurial community. LinkedIn makes a lot of sense. We have this for all of our socials as well. So people can, follow each other there and connect. Because again, networking, collaboration. Okay. We're going to do a little math. It's not that bad. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Trust me. And Matt's probably laughing because it's really light. So buckle in. So remember those goals. We're building all this strategy. We're trying to get people to participate. How do we know if we're successful, right? We need to decide, well, what do we want to track? What's happening that we want to track over time? We're going to benchmark that, which is basically just like, where are we starting? And that's like our start point, and we're going to grow. And if that was a like hilariously simple definition, math isn't my thing. And then we're going to track it. We're going to see, are we making growth over time? Because in the day-to-day, in the community, you can get a sense for it, but seeing the numbers, and it pains me to say this because I'm not a numbers person, as I've mentioned 100 times, or was it 100? Who knows? Math. It's just not comparable. Like seeing the data is so valuable. You start seeing trends. It's so worth it. Just trust me. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to establish what we want to track. It doesn't have to be hard. Just some suggestions, some ideas at a very basic. I would say your monthly active users, or MAUs, MAUs, is probably like the number one thing. As you're growing a community, and if interaction within the forum spaces, the asynchronous, is what's really important to you, you can track posts and comments. It's interesting to track that and look over time. And then if a lot of what you're doing, if the high value is from events, track RSVPs and then attendance and kind of see what's going on there. So how are we tracking this? To find it all, if you didn't already know, this is a little screenshot of what it looks like in Circle as an admin. That little icon there that I circled in red will take you to the analytics. And then within that, there's a bunch more. You can find all this information there. We won't go into it today, but happy to help. And oh yeah, and then I just put a little reminder. If you haven't launched yet and you're wondering, well, how do I benchmark? There's nobody in my community. You'll start that when you launch. I would say take your first quarter and that's your benchmark. That's a good like just general tip. Okay, this is the only math you need to know. The new data minus the old data divided by the old data and then throw it into a percent. That's it. So that's month over month. If you're looking at, if the new data is like the month of February and the old data is the month of January. So if we had 60 comments in February, nope. If we had 50 comments in January and then we had 60 in February, like, yeah, that's growth. What is it? It's 20%. Matt, if I'm wrong, I'll be mortified, but I triple checked. I actually have my spreadsheets do this for
You're
me.
mostly right.
I'm mostly right. We're good. We're good.
No, you're right. You forgot
is just the percent.
No. I was just going to poke fun. It's okay. We can move on. Sorry.
Oh, I would have had a whole panic of like, I might have done it wrong. I have test anxiety. Okay. So here's just like this is all it has to be is this. You just have your super duper community tracking. You go by month. The little calculation is right there in that one shot. And then you can see these percentages, the month over month, the mom, you can see like, okay. And then, it may be a negative 1 month. That's okay. It happens. Because again, communities are just all over the place. It's fine. It's fine. But if you do this, and like for Pro, as an example, we have almost 2 years of historical data now because we've been tracking it. I know when there's going to be a natural slump. I know when it's going to be generally busier because I can look at the data and a lot of times trends happen due to like summer vacation. People are busy over the holidays, right? November, December in the US in particular kind of nosedives because people are like really focused on end of year stuff. And that's okay. There's no reason to panic. But then you can also see over time that linear growth to show like, ooh, our engagement works. Or, ooh, this isn't growing as much as I thought. I should try something else. So this is me at the math test. I know it's a lot. And of course, it's your community. I won't know if you do this. There's no one's going to come shut you down. But just consider if you're not going to look to see if things are working, like, is it worth even setting up the strategy? Just something to think about. Okay. And then fine tuning. You're always going to be fine tuning. So we've gone over a lot, namely how important purpose and value are and how to kind of figure that out, right? Like the party prep, what spaces are super important for your community to maintain that value and to stick with that purpose. What onboarding programming and resources like that Start Here page, what can you do to help hold that hand when they first join so they feel comfortable and they want to engage? And then you're the hostess with the mostest, the engagement strategy. You kind of have an idea now of like, how do I come up with a strategy that's doable, that's sustainable for me, and how do I track it? So now you can implement those things into your community. Again, whether you're launching right now or whether you've been around for a while, but you kind of want to clean it up. You feel like you've been shooting from the hip and you want to have a little more, at least feeling of control over what's happening in your community. This will help. Start with 30 days. Just start with basics and then build on top of that. That's the most important part. Like, again, threw a lot at you. Pick the things that are the most important to you and your community right now. Start with that. Once you feel comfortable, edit, adjust, then maybe add something else. And then this final, and Dory is here because I am Dory. Just keep swimming. That's the motto. That's community. Just keep swimming. I probably say it in meetings too much. You're just going to keep going. It never ends. but it's fun. It's supposed to be fun. You can have fun with this. And of course, talk to your members. What do they want? Ooh, they like that thing we did. Maybe we should do it every week, right? Like they will tell you. And then I just wanted to put the merry-go-round because sometimes it feels like that. We do an onboarding every quarter, but and the fundamentals are the same, right? It's completely different every time. I mean, people, have similar questions. I know to anticipate that. I post, hey, did you know this is happening? Because I know people are going to have that question, right? I learn from their experience. But it's still different every time because it's different humans, right? So get on that merry-go-round and enjoy your rides. Okay, Pat, Matt, you wanna come on up and bundle with Randy? Actually, let's go to Q&A. I'm gonna stop sharing.
No, that's great. I know that you were worried because it was like a lot of slides, but all super, super important.
Right?
And you actually flew through that pretty quickly, which is awesome because it'll give us some time here toward the top of the hour to answer some questions. There's some great questions that are being asked. I saved a few of them. South Park for the win, says Jessica. But Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the bundle? Some people came in. Actually, we have a lot more viewers than we did in the beginning. So I'm going to pop up the bundle information here. But why don't you talk about this partnership and why we were setting up this thing? And hopefully you all enjoyed the 3 workshops today. The links to the other workshops are below in the description, as well as the link to the bundle too. And just, again, free amazing value coming your way from Jillian, and then earlier Andy and Alexis from Circle, and then myself and Matt to start off the day. And here we are, full circle at the end of the day now, or half circle, however you want to talk about it. Anyway, talk about the bundle really quick. What are people getting, and what can we expect?
Absolutely. From our side, it's a ton of practical value that you've heard through Jillian's workshop. And if you joined mine with Pat earlier, that we want to make a lot of this approachable. So we've kind of gone pretty deep into our own knowledge set, our workflows, our checklists, things that we actually use with SPI Pro that we have learned and developed and refined over close to 2 years. And we want to give a lot of that to you to help you overcome some of these, initial questions as a creator of a community, as a community experience designer, designing community yourself. Our contributions from the SPI side into that bundle are to help you really gain a lot of traction, make decisions, start to implement some decisions.
Awesome. And if you are not a user of Circle yet, obviously we highly recommend using it. There are many different options out there, but we have done the work and we have worked on and with Circle to make it the best for you. And we use it ourselves, of course. And if you use Circle and today, and it's the first time you get into any plan, the $39 plan or $99 plan to get in, you also get the bundle as well, of course, at either plan, $2,500 worth of bonuses. And a common question that we've gotten today is, well, what if I'm already a Circle user? What happens? You automatically get the bundle sent to you as well. I'm not sure if it'll be delivered instantly or even today, but it'll be delivered to you. We have your registration information. If you aren't registered and you got in here just through the algorithm of YouTube or the interwebs, then head on over to smartpassiveincome.com/CXDay for Community Experience Day, smartpassiveincome.com/CXDay. And be sure to register there as soon as you can so that you get that email. And if you don't get the bundle, you can reach out to help with over at Circle to help take care of you. And then we have some other follow-up things to give you as well. We also have some SPI-related things inside of that bundle, including a couple exclusive workshops that you get access to, as far as additional help that we can get into the weeds for you. And we also have actually, Jillian, maybe you could speak to this, some really handy information in there that you put together for everybody. What is in that bundle that you put together for us?
Oh, so much, you guys. So we put together a launch checklist to help keep you on track. We kind of showed what our layout looks like, which we just kind of showed you a little bit now too, but just to help you figure out what kind of spaces you want and how to outline them. The email guide alone will just save you so much time. We basically spelled it out like, hey, for onboarding, here's the cadence, here's the general topic that we send. So I showed you just a little snippet of ConvertKit, but what we put in the bundle is much more detail. So you can really just kind of take that and use it as a skeleton to then add the information about your own community and just save yourself a lot of time. And of course, onboarding. So all of both the email onboarding and that content and like what to include, but also kind of what I showed you in Pro with all those spaces. I go into those spaces to give you an idea of what it looks like, why it's designed the way it is. Like the new member checklist just seems, the new member challenge might seem kind of silly, like, oh, do this and get a badge, but everything that's in there that I have them go do serves a purpose. Mm-hmm. It's just a great way to get people in their own time kind of looking around. You can have, we have video tours. You do have to update them sometimes because your community is always changing, but that's okay. I use Loom. It's amazing. And there's a ton, but I also want to highlight, as I mentioned, I'm such a stickler about having really good community guidelines, but also moderation policies. You need to explain to people, these are the guardrails. This is what this community is for. And maybe even more importantly, this is what this community is not for. And here is what happens if you go outside of the guidelines. Like, it's very clear. First time, you'll get a DM. We'll talk about it. No big deal. You didn't know. Second time, we'll be like, hey, this is happening again. Third time, I might remove you from the community lovingly, but it's not for you. I have it all laid out very clearly for SPI Pro, so people know exactly what's going to happen.
Awesome. Jessica here says, this is amazing. I'm so excited to pitch my ideas to our CEO and take the next steps in creating this amazing space for our community. You're going to be the hero, right? Because you are now able to help put together your customers, but they're not customers. They're human beings, and human beings want to connect with each other. And so many great things happen in your business when you do that, like we spoke about earlier when Matt and I were chatting. We do have a lot of questions. And again, as a reminder, Andy just actually popped in here from Circle and said, if you are already a Circle user, like you have a Circle community already, and you're on one of their plans, you will automatically get the bundle tomorrow. Within the next 24 hours, it'll be in there. If you are signing up brand new, it's actually already set up for you to get that right away. So don't worry, you're going to get it. And if you are a Circle user already, that's going to happen. So awesome. Let's talk about, first of all, I want to give a big shout out to Jocelyn, who has been very active on Twitter, recapping a lot of the stuff from earlier presentations. Just want to give a shout out to you. I think I remember you posted about creating a community for sneakerheads, which is, I think, what you're up to. That's really awesome, and a huge, booming, very, very active community that definitely is. So thank you so much for that. Regina is asking, hey, Team SPI, what software are you using to have the three of you on the screen? We are using Ecamm Live, and I think it's safe to say it did very well for us today. And it was just kind of automatic streaming to YouTube. And we've had our fair share of technical issues in the past, and I'm just so grateful that we only had one snafu where I was muted, and that was it. That's like the worst of it, and that's awesome, right? So thank you, Regina, for the question. And we are again using Ecamm Live, smartpassiveincome.com/ecamm. If you're curious about that, that's our affiliate link. Okay, let's see. Maybe this is a question for you, Matt, and this is maybe more of a technical one. But in Circle, if people want to be in your next cohort, so you open, close, but it's not opening for another few weeks, can you take payment now so you don't lose the sale when the entry sort of time period comes in? I'm sure there'd be a way to do that, right?
Technically, yes. With most of these systems, it's sort of like you can almost do anything. It just kind of depends on how you have it all wired up. So, under the hood for us, we use Stripe. That's ultimately, what we use as the payment processor. Right now, we use MemberStack, which is a third-party platform. It's a great platform, in its own right. And that has like billing capability so that our members can self-manage billing. They can switch from maybe the quarterly plan to the annual plan. And then we certainly, Circle is kind of the hub of it. And just, I guess, as a teaser, that there is a future state where we will consolidate for user experience purposes down to Circle when some new capability comes around, where we can put and like run billing and payments and that sort of stuff natively through Circle. But for right now, that's our stack. So to the question, yeah, we can open up privately like links to checkout that aren't necessarily hard coded into the like the onboarding flow that Jillian now runs, as a part of a cohort. That's definitely possible. We even have through different sort of mechanisms like a fast track process if certain applicants qualify. Now, again, in our world, and I know Pat brought this up earlier, we have an application on the front end of our community experience before members can get in. Not everyone has to do that. Yet that's a part of even what Jillian has spoken about today around like designing the experience and being very intentional with how you want to do that. That's a long answer, but yes, you can make it work. Kind of depends again on the building system you're using and how you kind of want to open that up behind the scenes.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Matt and Kelsey. Next question, actually something from Nick. This was also amazing. Thank you so much. If you don't mind sharing, what are some of the most efficient ways you've found to track posts, comments, and engagement from the community? Jillian, maybe I can have you speak to this one as far as like how do you track how many things are coming in and whatnot?
I go into the analytics settings, and then you can go to, there's a tab. There's like a post and comments tab, and from there you can select the date range. And right now with how Circle's analytics work, you can download CSVs for certain data. I usually just find it easy enough to go and just be like, add up the month, divide by however many days in the month, and then that's the month's total posts. So I just make
But there's an area to
that.
go and get that information, right? Like you don't have to manually count that or anything like that, which is super, super handy.
Oh no, I wouldn't do it. If you had to do it that way, it would be really hard. No, I just go into the analytics, and I'm sure Andy can speak more to like probably better ways to do it than I do it. But any community platform hopefully has some analytics that you can look at and track, and then it's just on you to, I showed you that simple example spreadsheet. You can do it however you want, but I like to do spreadsheets so that they do the math for me.
And try to keep it simple if you can. Let's go to Jessica, who said, would it be a good idea to post a survey for the community to pick their brains on the things they would be looking for as far as information, content, and ideas to build onto the spaces? I think that's personally a fantastic idea. We ran a survey ourselves even before the community was launched. However, ongoing surveys are going to be a very smart thing to do as well because, as Jillian mentioned, things change and people change and your community will change and evolve with the people who are in there. But Matt, maybe you could speak to surveys as far as maybe if you have a particular tool on how to best manage that and also the usefulness and what you can do with it.
Absolutely. To kind of boomerang off your first point, though, we used our first survey to validate, and in some cases, invalidate some of our preliminary thinking on the design of our community. So before we even launched SPI Pro, back even in the days, Pat, when we were, on my note cards talking about it as SPI Plus, we kind of wrote out the architecture like, okay, I thought this, or whatever. Let's get that validated. And one of the big things, and we spoke about this also in an earlier workshop, was that we wanted to center our community on the connections, not on the experience, and intentionally not on exclusive content and make this a content play. And our survey, because we chose to do that, validated that very notable decision. There's a lot of different tools that you can use, yes, to do surveying. Jill, you can even help me here. I'm blanking for some silly reason. We use which one right now?
Oh my gosh. So we were using Typeform, and then I tried Tally.so. That was the most recent one. Yeah.
That's the most recent one. Yeah. So we've been a big Typeform user for a while, and that's still a great platform. I was forgetting Tally. Tally is kind of an up and comer. So yeah,
nice.
Doesn't really matter. Again, pick the one that works best for you. The most important thing is have a good data set to validate or invalidate some of your thinking.
Perfect answer. Thank you so much, Jessica, and thank you, Matt. We're going to go to Coco Lime, who's asking, what's the advantage to onboard at intervals instead of right away? And I guess maybe to rephrase the question, I'm guessing, Coco Lime, you can verify this if this is true, is this is the idea of, waiting to maybe like for us, waiting every quarter to let people in and then onboard. So that interval of like once a quarter versus the moment a person's interested, just like getting them in and sort of, flowing them in as you go, right? Do we like put a dam up and have the water kind of like rise and then whoosh, like rush people in? And I know personally, and maybe we can hear from the other two here, but there are pros and cons to each strategy, right? There is the idea that if you were to go to intervals, it's like, okay, you can make a big deal and launch and have a system and a process for that to showcase all the best parts of your community all to everybody all at once and get a huge rush of people in, sort of like, a whole bunch of new freshmen coming in for a new school year, if you will, kind of thing. And that is great because those people come in together, and it's this idea, and I remember our good friend Jay Klaus made this analogy. It's like the idea of like, if you were to go to college, you want to go at the same time as the other freshmen, because now you can make friends and you're kind of all going through it together and learning together, versus if you were to arrive by yourself, like while the party's already happening, or education too is important within universities, then it's going to feel awkward and weird maybe, right? But on the other side, right, and you're going to have to make this decision yourself. On the other side, you're not getting income necessarily coming in on a more constant basis if you're launching maybe in more intervals. And yes, of course, there's payment plans which could help supplement that. But the other thing that I heard once is like, well, you risk making a huge change in the vibe of that community who's there if you bring a whole rush of new people in. And that's something that we're okay with, because we kind of have filtered those people to ensure that they're the right kind of people when they come in through our application process. But that's the risk. You have this community and they all kind of know each other, and it's like, oh, look at all these new people, and it's kind of different now than it once was. And that could be sort of a risk factor as well. Any thoughts, Matt or Jillian, on one versus the other, or pros and cons?
Jill, do you want to swing next on that?
Sure. I would say it totally depends, right?
Mm-hmm.
For us and the type of programming we do, because we put people, we mastermind match, and, we have big groups coming in, it makes sense for us. And it also helps because, we have an application, and we do give people the option, if they want to pay annual, they can join anytime. They don't have to wait. We do that because we think, well, they're clearly invested. So we can get them in, and they understand I'm coming in outside of a cohort, so it might not have that camaraderie, although we do put them in whichever cohort they're closest to. And then otherwise people wait. Sometimes people who pay annual anyways wait for the cohort. They want that experience. They want to join with everybody else. So it works for our community and what we're doing. Because it's a paid community, there's a lot of things happening. So we want to make sure people are really invested in joining. And if they're willing to wait a couple months, we think they're probably pretty invested. Do we lose people because of it? We might, but it protects overall the programming that's important to us. And we found that the cohort model is very important to us. Now, if you are just starting, you have a small community and you're trying to grow, maybe just leave it open. Let people join when they want, but just be very, very intelligent on what that onboarding will look like as an individual coming in on their own. It's extra important to make sure they feel welcome, because they're just coming in on a Tuesday and you might be busy. You might have a dentist appointment, So what do you have in place to ensure that person, when they join, whatever time, whatever day, feels welcome, feels a part of things, right? So that's where the emails and the onboarding stuff comes into play, if that makes sense. I'll stop there.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Matt, anything quick you want to add on?
Yeah, to round out, I track with both of what you both said, and I agree with it. So maybe to distill some of it, I think it's really, really super important to not confuse strategies and tactics. So when thinking about like, when do you let people in, when do you not, things like that, those are tactical choices that hopefully support the strategy. For us, our strategy is centered on belonging, connections, and creating experiences so that as soon as possible, new members can begin to meet each other in smaller and smaller groups, and even one-to-one, like kind of find a buddy system sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And at least our theory of the case, our vision, our model, our strategy is that. So then finding the tactics that support that strategy for us have been effective. I will say, though, that it's not always efficient. And that's another thing to kind of keep in mind in terms of the juxtaposition. Things that are effective aren't always efficient, but because we're over-indexing on the experience, the very human connection, the personality, Jillian, me, Pat, the team, et cetera, like we have to make those tactical decisions to play out our strategy. And they are effective. They are working.
Awesome. I'm going to have you keep going, Matt, because we have a question here from Michael King Art about pricing strategy, which is like your wheelhouse. I know I want to charge X dollars per month for the community, and I'm building, but for a launch/founder member stage, Should a reduced cost membership be provided? Good or bad idea? I'll let you go first. I have a couple potential points to share.
Oh yeah. I mean, this again can open up for me like, I don't know, a 10-minute talk track. I'll try not to do that
Let's keep
here.
it maybe a couple minutes if that's cool. Try to control yourself.
So I think to the explicit question, I do think it's a good idea, but you can kind of look at this from one direction or another. You can say, hey, okay, I'm going to do a founder cohort kind of coming in. Here's the price for that. And if you have a pre-existing audience, doesn't have to be a big one, but if you have one, you could do, honestly, like we did with SPI Pro when we first launched it almost 2 years ago, where we didn't go public with this. The wider world didn't know we were launching this. We only talked to our existing audience. And by doing it this way, if you have an ability to do so, you set a price, and then when you go public, you go higher. So you're saying like, okay, I'm launching at this price point, $29 a month, $39 a month, but when it goes public, I'm going to charge $59 or $69 a month. Versus the other way of saying like, okay, I'm going to launch publicly, or maybe, your first step out of the gate is to go public, and you're going to charge this, and then you discount on that figure, right? So I would say if you have an existing audience of any size that's engaged and you want to start small, like we've been advocating across our workshops, I would say start at a good price that you feel good about, and then think about expanding value and building into increased value as you go forward.
My take is related to actually a great idea that somebody had in the last session with Andy and Alexis, and that was they didn't want to sort of quote unquote cheapen the value of the cohort or of the membership and community. But that's not to say that offering your founding members a discount is cheapening. I mean, that's a reward for them. It's a first to market. It's a thank you, if you will, if you want to position it that way. So that mindset about why you sort of price more cheaply is really important. But what this person said, and I can't remember her name, but I apologize, but she had mentioned that she included additional bonuses that were only available to those people, right? There was like a t-shirt and some other bonus items that were available just for founding members to help make that experience even better and even bring that community closer together. So I thought that was an interesting solution as well, which is pretty cool. So I think that Diane here says, I love watching the three of you enjoy your talking topics. You just got to fall in love with what you do, even though it's not always easy, even though there's hard times. When you light up about the things that are going to help others, it just makes things so much easier. So anyway, Michael, I hope that answers your question, and thank you for the question. Jillian, we were kind of half answering this question from Mia earlier. I'd love for you to expand on this one with relation to the migration, because I know you were in charge of a lot of that. Migration from Facebook, for example, or anywhere, to a Circle community. How does one best manage that and plan for that?
Oh, yes, let's light up. Get off of those other platforms that shall not be named. So to keep it in 2 minutes, let me try. You want to communicate it, right? So, hey, we're doing this thing, and it's a good thing because it's going to be better. The community is going to be better. We're going to be on and explain why. We're going to be on a platform tailored to this. You won't have to worry about, spam and your uncle's political post, whichever side that is, and all the things. It's going to be better, and you need to communicate that there's a higher value, and that is why you want to move, and then make it really exciting. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, we're going to have a launch party, we're going to do this, maybe there's freebies and giveaways, however you want to do it, make it super exciting. And you want to communicate it well in advance. So what we did, because we had all of our course communities on Facebook, and I was very adamant, even interviewing with Matt, I remember saying like, well, we're going to move those, like I will not be spending my time on Facebook in this role. So unless it's removing people from. And so we did, we made clear communications a couple months out, a few other things. We showed people how they could join early, because for course communities, it made sense for us. We changed how people could, we made it so people could not join the Facebook groups anymore. And we were just sending people to Circle. So if you have ongoing, enrollments or however you do it, you want to make sure you're thinking about the brand new people, because it's a bad experience to start in Facebook and then, self-correct back to the new place. So make it really exciting. Make some events around it, have some RSVPs, maybe do an info session if people aren't sure, and then have a date where it shuts down. This whole time you're sending emails, you're trying to get people in. You can even, if you kind of have, what I like to call like a super user, like an ambassador level, like just awesome super fan type person in the community, reach out to those people first. Tell them first. They will ask questions, and that will help you then, and communicate to the larger group. But also, you'll get their buy-in first. So then they're going to be posting, yeah, this is awesome, right? And then
smart.
Other people in the community who maybe are quieter are going to be like, oh, well, Pat's stoked about this and he's really active and I like him. So, okay. You use your super fans to your advantage. And I don't mean it in a gross way. I mean, like, collaborate, right?
Utilize.
Do it together.
Utilize them. That's such a smart idea, by the way. I didn't even consider that. But letting them know ahead of time, so it's not like, hey, next week everything's going to change. People don't like change. And like, even if it's for the better, sometimes it's just like, like now I have to like use calories to figure out if this is right for me or not, right? And that is hard sometimes. And you have to empathize with them as well. If you start getting maybe negative feedback as a result of that, it can be very easy to go, okay, I'm sorry, we won't change. Don't like react that way. We want to expect that there's going to be potentially some people who won't want the change. But again, as Jillian mentioned, when we provide the list of benefits and when we have other people who are power users in the community also on board, I mean, people will follow, and then eventually it just doesn't even become a thought anymore. I mean, after a couple months, it's like, oh yeah, we were on Facebook. I totally forgot about that. And it's like, it's so much better here now. So thank you for that amazing answer, Jillian. We got 3 more questions, and that way we can end the night on a high. And just thank you again all for being here. And if you haven't yet done so, check out the bundle, smartpassiveincome.com/bundle, to get some amazing, amazing bonuses to go with your circle plan. This one is from Diane. When you do an open house for non-members, what are you sharing? What are you showing them? Jillian, maybe this one's you as well, because I know you've done that.
Yes. I was just typing a follow-up to the last question. So just real quick, you will lose people when you migrate. You're going to lose people. The people you lose are not invested in what you're doing. They may eventually find you if they miss it, but don't worry about them. Focus on the people who want to go with you and then grow from there. Okay. Diane, pro member. So Diane, next time we do an open house, you should come. We'll be doing one in May. So what we share, we do a Zoom call, people RSVP, it's all via email. So we send a info about it. There's an RSVP to a Zoom. We get on the Zoom. We have an agenda that we've shared in the email. Generally, it's a welcome. We do some kind of networking, getting to know you, just so people see like what it's like. And it's very much like a call in pro, and that's intentional. We want it to feel kind of like a pro call, except we answer questions about membership. We will do a tour. We'll kind of show them around, similar to what we've done today, but just maybe like a little more in depth. Or if someone has a specific question, like, well, what is this? We can get into it. We talk about just like, this is what you can expect, and a lot of question and answer. But yeah, we just kind of want them to get a feeling for what it's like in a pro call. I will say too, existing pros come to those calls and chime in with their experience. And I love it when they do. So Diane, we'll make sure you come to the next one.
Thank you, Diane. Here's a question from Ethan. He says, should I offer a free version of the community or just go straight for a flat fee, like a basic tier, and then maybe add a different tier for, say, more exclusive content later? And Matt, maybe you could take this one, because I know we've been doing a lot of tier-related talk. We, if you haven't heard yet, are discussing launching certain tiers within our own community, one that is maybe a higher level, one that's maybe even a lower level, which you should all get excited about, because this way we can even serve more people, but in the right places. And more on that later. But Matt, tiers, not like tears out of your eyes, but tiers, different versions of what it is you have to offer within the community. How do we?
Yeah, the architectural kind, not the crocodile tears out of the eyes.
Right. So, that was me yesterday. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, a few thoughts here. But overall, yes, like it's a big yes to thinking about tiers, because they even reference my workshop with Pat from earlier in the day today for CXDay. A free tier can actually be a very effective bridge from audience building into community building. So Pat and I spent a lot of time earlier in today talking about the really important differences, the different purposes, objectives, strategies, a lot of business thinking going into the differences between audience building and community building. So if you have a free community that starts to warm up an audience, you can offer that to your audience that is subscribed to your email list, listening to your podcast, etc., and starting to invite them into a more sacred space, into a space where you can kind of take that relationship, so to speak, to the next level, but with, if it's free, sort of low risk, right? But you're in a more private atmosphere. You can maybe do some one-on-one DM messaging. You can start that process of facilitating one-to-one connections among other members. And that's especially useful if then down the road, you do in fact want to have another tier that is a paid tier, right? And you've gotten people then kind of comfortable showing up in a different way, learning about other people, learning more about you. And I'm making certain assumptions here around like the design aspects of what you would desire for your community, but that's worked for us, right? And especially with Circle, and Circle makes this really easy to have different communities and like single sign-on capability and a whole bunch of technical nerdy things that we geek out about. Point here is like, yes, you can do this. You can do this actually very effectively. And Pat, you were teasing it, is that, we have new tiers coming. Some that are kind of downstream, lower barrier to entry, but we're also going to go upstream because there's such demand that we have heard. Like this isn't us just guessing. Like we have heard this from our current members of like, we want to go deeper, especially on a lot of business concepts. So we have heard that, processed that, and designed a new experience around a lot of like deeper level business strategies and discussion points and experiences. And we're going to launch a business tier that's above and beyond what we have right now. So longer answer, hard yes to tiers, love the free idea, and use it, especially if you're already investing a lot with audience building.
But have a plan, right? I think it's important to consider, okay, maybe you have the free and here's what's in it, and here's the paid and here's what's in it. And then here, I think we had a question in the last round in workshop 2 about like, should I start with free knowing that I'm going to eventually charge those same people? And you can go back and listen to that answer as well. It was more toward the end of the conversation with Andy and Alexis. But again, really think it through and really understand sort of what is the value and benefit for each of those tiers, and what does a person get for free that they don't get access to. But then also you don't want those who pay to feel like, well, the free would have been good enough, and so I'm going to downgrade, right? We don't want that kind of vertical transitioning to happen. Kathy says, thank you so much for CXDay. I have 3 pages of ideas for my existing membership from today's various meetings. That's awesome. Don't do all 3 pages worth of things, right? We want to pick and choose from the very best of those and those that work best for you. Let's answer this final question from one of our members, Boris, who has the Destiny Show podcast. You should check that out. He asks, in terms of community, if I were to start a new one, how would I decide on what my community should be about? Since Circle is paid, should it be a paid community also? You can use Circle for free, knowing that building an audience of those people there could potentially lead to other things, right? Maybe you have courses and you want people to discuss these things with each other first before investing in something else that you have to offer. I even know people who have software and even physical products who've built communities to serve those people. And then because they serve them, it's more easy for them to serve them with their paid products on top of that. But as far as like a new one and sort of what do we create it about, Jillian, what are your thoughts? Because we did a little exercise in the beginning about who are we doing this for and what are the values that we're offering them. But if we're just starting from scratch, and maybe this is coming because I know Boris has a lot of things going on, maybe it's, well, of the things that I'm doing, how do I know what to focus on, right? Because we don't want to create a community kind of for everybody, because then if we do, it's actually serving nobody. So how do you process like which direction to start with?
What's the purpose?
That's a loaded question.
What's the purpose and what's the value?
I mean, the riches are in the niches, right? As I often say, right? And so picking a particular group and then focusing on them, and like you said, figuring out the purpose is going to be absolutely vital.
Yeah. Well, I can offer maybe one example or a manifestation, Jill, of that point around purpose, is that, if you're a course creator like we are, we have a range of really in-depth educational products, courses. One manifestation of purpose is to design a safe space for your students to go to then learn from each other. Because in most traditional settings, especially with DIY, so do-it-yourself-based course products, your students are learning on their own, right? It's a very linear solo process. It's a very single-player video game experience, right? It's not a multiplayer world-building game like Pat and I were talking about in our workshop earlier. So you can have a product or a platform like Circle, you can use Circle It actually does integrate quite well with other learning management system products, FYI, like Teachable. And you can create an ecosystem, a community for your students who go through your courses, and they can go deeper, kind of have study groups amongst themselves, et cetera. And that's still true to then your purpose. It takes your purpose arguably even deeper, and kind of enriches your whole brand value because have that extra kind of add-on quality to your educational products.
Thank you for that. Jillian, you want to finish off with any last piece of advice here?
Yeah, well, Boris, what do you want your community to be about, right? Like, what offerings do you want it to be about? SEO and teaching people how to do that, kind of what Matt was sort of covering. Like, it's kind of the sky's the limit. It's just what do you want to bring people together for? Like, what is the special sauce that you are providing that will be fun for you, but also is of value to whether it's your podcast audience or maybe it's course students. Like, I would really just sit and think, like, how can I provide something that I'm not, better or bigger or new that I'm not now, or I could do in a better way on a platform designed for community. It's one of those things. I think I think it was in the Circle workshop, someone was asking about which industries, should a firm, like a law firm, have a community? And it's like, well, what's the point of the community? Is it to support customers? Is it to talk shop with other lawyers? You have to really get granular about who do you want to join and what will they get out of it? And then from there you can kind of build. I wish I could just tell you, Boris, like, oh, you need to do it about this, and this is your programming. But it's a very personal thing, as it should be, because that'll make your community special and different from the other communities that are similar.
Awesome.
A non-answer answer.
Beautiful answer, though. And Boris says thank you. A question here quickly to finish off. This will be the final question. Again, thank you all so much. What is your opinion on offering free for founding members, and then when you launch, go paid? You could do it that way, although we had discussed this already as far as, having some skin in the game, some sort of payment allows for those people to really be committed. And for those, especially first founding members, you want them to commit. You want them to feel like they have value coming back from that investment, right? We're not charging them. I mean, we are, but we're asking them to invest in not just the program or the community, but also in themselves. And that's a key psychological difference in terms of the positioning of that. So I would recommend having a either deep discount if you want to go down that direction for your founding members, or like we spoke about earlier, having some really, really amazing bonuses. I mean, those founding members will likely automatically get additional time with you, more than they could get with anybody else, as you work with them to shape what this community becomes. And to finish off, I'm just reflecting on the nearly 2 years that we've put into SPI Pro and the fact that we're still continuing to learn. But I'm just so grateful that we have been positioned in the space as sort of leaders in terms of building these private communities, especially more professional type ones, that just seem to provide so much value, and that we can now sort of bounce back this information and the things that we're learning, the things we're doing right, the things we're not doing right, to you, like we have done this entire day today. So we'll put a close to CXDay, and I want to thank you all so much, Jillian. What a wonderful presentation. Thank you. The other workshops are linked to in the description below, and I'm just so proud of everybody who was involved. Thank you to Circle. And again, make sure to head over to smartpassiveincome.com/bundle so you could check out the bonuses that come along with signing up for Circle. This is definitely the biggest promotion that we've both have ever done with relation to this topic, and we're excited to create this for you. The replays are instantly available. This will instantly be available as soon as we close up. Also, a big shout out to Jonathan in the chat, and I think I saw Alexis earlier. Mindy was even here from our team as well, and just everybody who has been involved. It's just been absolutely incredible. So, Matt, CEO of SPI Media, why don't you finish this off with a last hurrah, and then we'll close up shop.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's all about this community, truly this broader community, all of you creators that are getting really interested in this stuff. And it's just a thrill to talk about this stuff. We love it. We nerd out about it. And all of you, honestly, are the reason why we're here and we're doing this. So a big thank you to all of you. And if we can help with anything, please come and ask us.
All righty. Take care, everybody. Good luck on your communities, and we look forward to helping you even further, especially for those of you who get the bundle. We have some special exclusive workshops for you, so go ahead and check that out now. And as a reminder, if you are a Circle user already, you'll probably see the bonuses within 24 hours inside of your account. So well done. goodbye and au revoir or whatever they say.
So long, farewell.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.